Quite often I say that Tyler Carpenter, aka Drawn Talk, is the gift that keeps on giving. That's right. And he's given back to us again with his latest statement concerning one Ethan Van Sciver, the Frogman, crowdfunding, late books, prices, integrity, and all that and more. You want to know? Stay tuned after the intro. Let's do this. All right, let's get into this. I'm LP, writer and creator Nyobi. Let's talk about what Tyler has to say. And he quotes, and I quote, he quotes, I'm sure he's quoting too. And I quote, crowdfunding is not a model meant for advertising a comic, making money, and then leaving. Snakes in the grass, like EVS and others, have tarnished crowdfunding as a viable place to get indie comics. The absolute poison and cancer these creators have brought into the space sucks, while there are, and in bold capital letters, so many creators who are making comics and fulfilling their books. And indeed, ladies and gentlemen, you are looking at one of them, me, and Tyler included. The problem is that the 1% who are the loudest and making the most money come in thinking, I have worked for the big two, so I can do this. When all they learned how to do was draw well, but they didn't learn in those 20 years. Here's what they didn't learn in those 20 years. Number 1, customer service. Number 2, printing and shipping. Number 3, fulfillment. Number 4, money management as a business. Goes on to say, do not let these people gaslight you into saying it takes 2 to 3 years to make a 40-page comic. If they want to draw, they would. They don't want to. And now they burn the crowdfunding model for many potential fans with their bad business practices. And he's not wrong, right? Like, just to take this statement without looking at where this came from, without going through the comments, without, inquiring with the committee, he's not wrong, right? It only takes a couple of bad apples to ruin the whole bag, right? Let's say that you back the Frog and you backed Rainbow the Brute and it's 4 years late. And it's the first time you ever backed a crowdfunder and you've been waiting for this book and you're being fed lie after lie and false promise after false promise. And, you bought it when, say, you were 27 and now you're 31 going, where in the fuck is this book? Yeah, of course that's going to ruin the model for everyone else because people are not going to trust crowdfunding, right? Why would someone who backed, say, a 30-year professional in this business who can't get the job done back someone who's brand new putting out their first comic book, right? Because the logic would be that if this guy who's an industry pro can't get his shit done and can't get it done in a timely and orderly fashion, what makes me think this new kid, this new punk on the block with his very first comic book is going to be able to do anything? I'm not backing that. I'm not taking a chance. I've blown way too much money on comic books that are either late or never arrived at all. Hoodie, I'm looking at you. You know what I'm saying though? That's what's going to go through people's heads, right? And it doesn't take 2 to 3 years to do a 40-page comic book. It's only taken us a few weeks to get 25 pages done. If we were to do 40, yeah, maybe not an extra week or two, but that's about it. Look, guys like Van Sciver, Shane Davis, John Malin, the list goes on, are all used to working under tight deadlines. They know how to draw. They know how to get the books out on time. They had to do it, and they will tell you for numerous years working for DC, doing Flash, doing Green Lantern, etc. The thing is that they're not underneath the whip of an editor anymore. They're not underneath the corporation saying, you got to get this done by this date. And if not, consequences. Because here's the thing. They can be as late as they want, and there is no official consequences to be handed down to them because they don't answer to any master, right? They don't answer to the mouse. They don't answer to Bugs Bunny. They only answer to themselves and to the customers. Now, granted, the customers are getting snarly. They're getting pissy. If you go look at some of the comments on some of these late books, Van Sciver's included, the list is as long as my arm. and it goes past that, of angry people wondering where their books are and wondering why they can't get a refund. And we wonder why, as smaller creators, why we're struggling. Well, because I think a couple things have happened. One, I think people have gotten a little bit lost in the crowdfunding model, in the sense of they're giving up. They're giving up backing books because it takes too long and it costs too much money. Second reason why I think Kickstarters and crowdfunding, comics in general, are at a bit of a loss, is because I think people have slowly walked away from comic books, right? When the big two for a decade now hasn't been providing what you've been needing, yes, you're going to go to the indies, but if you have to wait for years to get your alternative, is there really an incentive to even be in comics anymore, right? Like, one of the biggest things for us, and bragging about being in shops, and that's often used against me, but there was a lot of truth to what I was saying, especially at that time, is that there are a lot more people that go to the comic book shop to buy comics than there are that people go to Kickstarter and buy comics, because the majority of these people that go to the comic book shop, and I know because I've talked to them, don't even know what Kickstarter or crowdfunding is. And I have to explain to them, well, it's kind of like GoFundMe, but you get something back in return. If you're lucky with most people. With me, you always do. But they don't get it. They want to go in on Wednesday, pick up their books for $3.99 and $4.99, and trust me, even at that price point, they're complaining. Let alone go to a crowdfunder, pay 10 to 20 bucks a book, and then pay another $10 in shipping and only get it half a year later. I understand. That is why we want it to be in shops. That's why I wanted Nyobi with Antarctic Press. They have a legacy in this business. They've been around for 40 years. And while we're not Marvel and DC, you still could go to your shop and pick up Nyobi off the shelf, or at least order it through Diamond, and they would be able to get that for you. And we've done that successfully, I will add. We didn't break any records, but sure in the hell, we got some books out there. And you didn't have to pay an arm and a leg for it. And I would wish that we could do that again. And maybe someday we will. For now, we do have to do the Kickstarter model, as it's the only way to keep alive in the wake of the Diamond bankruptcy. But this is what Tyler had to say. He's absolutely right. It doesn't take 2 to 3 years to do 40 pages. These people know that. They have worked underneath tight deadlines. Let's read a few of these comments. Tyler goes on to say, pick up any of these people's late campaigns. Look at the comments section. The amount of people saying, I'm done with crowdfunding, is massive. So the truth hurts. And he's not wrong. Right? Show me where on the doll where it touched you. He's not wrong. So Comics Dad, are you really a dad? Says, what would you recommend? Whose work would you recommend? And so he goes on to list all his friends, right? Which I think is kind of lame and just, it's really lame, right? Like recommend the real work, just not who you want to prop up because you rub elbows with them. But he goes on to say, Common America, Nicholas Mueller, Travis Gibb, I don't recommend him at all. Radistic, I don't know, something core. Chad, TX, whatever. Frank, the writer, Frank Bailey, he's all right. You got Mrs. H there. Pat Shan, I don't have a relationship with him at all. Stokes, the writer, been back and forth with Stokey. Chris Moses, to name a few, right? A lot of these guys are sort of in the same crew together. That's all right. Advertise your crew. But I would, it's kind of funny how he'll even mention T/Day, which is Tony James. But you don't add Nyobi? You have more problems with Tony James, but you don't list me as a book that people should check out. Tyler, I'm hurt. Tyler, what do you got to say for yourself?
We're not having a silly goose time right now. I'm legit pissed.
So am I. Get your fucking act together. I'm familiar with Common America and Chad's Black Fan. I'll check out the rest. Thanks. Mrs. H plugging her campaign. Let's scroll down here. See what other comments are being made. He could at least pretend to act like he cares about the delays. No, they don't care. They care about the money. The reason why there are delays is because they don't have the money to put out the work. And so you're paying Peter, you're taking from Peter, borrowing from Peter to pay Tom, right? It's like, hey, we're going to run this campaign for Rainbow the Brute, but we spent all the money. So now we got to run these other campaigns to try and save up some money to fulfill Rainbow the Brute when we finally get around to doing it, because we've already wasted that money on other things. That's the truth of it, right? He goes on to say, my manga is more than a little late due to outside and my artist control, and it's always on my mind. I make sure to keep things moving, even if it's slow, and that backers stay informed, and that I only raise a fraction of what he did. Lawrence L.G. Gilmore, otherwise known as Homeless Larry, and I know he's not homeless, just like they call me Cat Food Larry. We all have nicknames. Did you notice how they love to assign us all nicknames? Well, I'm going to start assigning nicknames to some people myself here. If they wanted to draw, they would, quote unquote. This, every bit of it. Then we got Tyler. You need to show EVS the respect he deserves. Hashtag throat goat. I think that's what he deserves, right? Case in point, the creators of Con America, look how they've been grown over the years. And this guy says, well said. Well said. And it comes from this post here. Tyler was sort of chiming in on this one, and this is chiming in on another one. And you can see how the rabbit hole just keeps going deeper and deeper, right, folks? But we'll check this out. So this is not to say that EVS does this, but I have two questions. Excuse me. Number one spends all the money from a comic crowdfunding campaign on personal living expenses and non-essentials. Now there is nothing left. What motivation would one ever have to getting a comic book completed? Well, the motivation is that until you do, you're going to face the wrath of angry customers and fans until it's done. Ask Rob Liefeld with 8 years late on Brigade. Is crowdfunding model the reason why some creators do not get their comics completed in a timely manner? Absolutely. And here's why. And it goes back to what I said a little earlier. They're not working for Marvel and DC. They don't have an editor breathing down their neck. They get the dilly-dally on their own time. Right? Sometimes a little bit of discipline and rules are needed for success. And these guys don't live by them because they're calling their own shots. The danger of calling your own shots is you often get lazy doing it. You know what I mean? I mean, at this point, Ethan is a fraud, you know? There's no other way to say it. CJ says, there is no incentive to complete the book. Printing and shipping costs money. Why would you do that when there's no reason to? Creators on Indiegogo are not obligated to fulfill books nor refund money because Ethan says you are backing, not buying. That's a cheap way out of it. It's not wrong, but we all know that that's not how it really works in comics, right? Kickstarter and Indiegogo, yes, they're meant to help you fund a dream, and those dreams may not always come to fruition or come to fruition in the way that you imagine it. But when it comes to comics, what they really are, both sites, is a pre-order site. And you shouldn't be offering anything for pre-order unless if you're sure you're good to go and you are going to be relatively on time. If you can't guarantee those things, maybe, just maybe, and far be it for me to tell you what to do, but I would strongly listen to my advice as a guy who's done this for 11 years. If you're not ready, don't pull the trigger. Pull the trigger when you are good to go. When you are that horse that's going to bust out of the gate and win that race without a shadow of a doubt, that's when you pull the trigger, okay? Hero Shack says, it's not really the model. This is the unprofessional use of the model. EVS is one of the worst. I would kind of agree with that. Sinopa Publishing. I didn't expect to see Sam here, but we're going to read Sam's comment. He says, I think the crowdfunding model is very viable. From my own experiences, crowdfunding has made several books and comics possible. I don't draw, so I pay for the art. And with that, I've been able to deliver several comics so far. Looking forward to delivering our current campaign in September. That projection is based on the fixed art schedule, as well as planning, printing, and allowing for a couple of extra weeks for the shipping. If someone is not familiar with how to fulfill a campaign, there are tons of resources out there to address common questions about fulfillment, printing, shipping, and what have you. There are so many comic creators out there who speak freely about the best practices for fulfillment, and there are several books out there as well. I hope folks don't give up on crowdfunding. I look forward to shipping books, and I love hearing from the folks who get them. There is something really special about bringing a new comic book to the world. I hope more people get that experience. Well said from Samuel Quinton, the Bitcoin assassin. Middle-aged and crazy says his argument is disingenuous. That's a word we hear thrown around quite a bit. Small creators can use crowdfunding in this manner. He did not need $500,000 to fund his comic. We funded his lifestyle for the past 5 years. Absolutely true. Jimmy Reeves could have answered that. Evan answers is start a new campaign. And that's what most people do, right? When they fall into debt, when they know they don't got the money to do and complete the previous campaign, they have to start a new campaign, right? Because they're going to take that money from the new campaign, apply it to the old campaign. And so you're always in this trap of having to start a new campaign. And eventually there's going to be no new campaign to start. Eventually, either you ran out of money or you're in debt if you continue to play that game. It will, at some point, catch up to you. At this point, says Defund the Media, I never consider backing a comic book that isn't completely finished and ready to be sent to the printer. Well, then you're not backing a lot of comics, right? Because even my comic is not completely done. I mean, we're close enough to being done that I had no problem crowdfunding it, but it's not 100% done. You know, we still got 2 pages left to draw. We got 12 pages left to color and 25 pages to letter. It's going to take a few more weeks, but we will be on time, if not early, from my delivery date. And always add an extra month or 2 to your delivery date because shit does and often happens. No one who delivers on time talks about crowdfunding like this. Only lazy sloths who need excuses for being years late. But technically, you didn't buy a comic. Funny, he wasn't saying that when he launched the campaign. 100% true, right? So guys, that's just, a small snippet of what's going on in the independent creator world where it concerns crowdfunding. A lot of talk about, is this fraud? How many years must go by before, you're able to call fraud on something? Can you even call fraud on a crowdfunding campaign? Because technically, like Ethan says, you're not buying a comic, you're backing a dream, but really you're buying a comic that you're not going to see for years on end. However, that will not be the case with me. In fact, we are now in demand for Nyobi, and I'm going to tell you all about it right now. And just who is today's sponsor? Well, it was me, Austin. It was me all along. And we're here to tell you that if you missed out on Nyobi Outbreak number 4, our Kickstarter campaign, worry not, for we have extended it for another 3 to 4 weeks with the in-demand / late pledge system that Kickstarter has now implemented, meaning we can keep this campaign open. We can keep the doors open, the lights on for another few weeks as you latecomers jump into the party and back the book. It comes at a slight increase of about 10% to whatever it is you're backing. So if it's, $10, you're going to pay 11, right? Not the end of the world, especially when you're coming in late. So come on in, back Nyobi today. Take a scroll through the campaign. The link is in the description of this video. The link will be in the comments of this video. You can search Nyobi on Kickstarter. You can find us easily. Come be a backer today. It's not too late. Get involved on the action and stay tuned for another video really soon.